Elliot Berman, an industrial chemist, decided he wanted to do something truly worthwhile, provide electrical power to those furthest away from it who were most in need. Berman's goal was to bring the manufacturing cost of solar cells down, but his employer rejected his idea, prompting him to leave the company. 6 years later, with backing from Exxon, Berman's new company, the Solar Power Corporation, had reduced the cost from $100 to $10 a watt. One of his first big customers, Berman assumed, would be the United States Coast Guard, which had to constantly power all its navigational aids.
Berman goes to the Coast Guard. Coast Guard says no because they don't want to change. And so then he goes to Exxon and asks them who he's working for, and he suggests the oil rigs, and they say no, well, they have plenty of power. He says, well, let's go see. And he goes down to Louisiana, and true to his observations, most of the rigs don't have any power of their own. They're using these very bulky primary batteries, and the solar cells, if they replace the primary batteries, they make great economic sense for the oil companies. So immediately Houston, where the oil companies are located, becomes the hub of the solar market from about 1974 to 1985. But the Coast Guard is still using these primary batteries. So a fellow named Lomer, who was a young officer at the time, thought, what the heck, if they're using them on the oil rigs, why not use them on the buoys of the Coast Guard? Because it's so expensive for the Coast Guard to replace these primary batteries every 6 months. So he goes up to his superior and says, why don't we start a research program? And he gets turned down. And then he gets a friend who says, let's build a solar-powered buoy in Ketchikan, Alaska, the most challenging environment possible for solar. And if that works, we've proven our point. So they go ahead. Indeed, it works very well. And he brings back the data to his boss, and the boss says, no way. So Lomer says, listen, to himself. He says, I've got to get these on these buoys. I don't care what happens.
Captain Lomer went over the heads of the Coast Guard and got a grant from the Department of Energy to start work on a solar power program for Coast Guard equipment. By 1989, the entire United States Coast Guard was solarized, and since then, all the Coast Guards of the world have followed suit.